But first, why do we need to rebuild the GOP? Joe, wouldn't you agree it'd be kind of silly to talk about why would we need to rebuild a brand new house we just built that was absolutely beautiful? You know, you walk in, it's got a home movie theater, it's got a beautiful dock and a pier in the back, a big modern kitchen. You love it. You got your Nancy Pelosi twin Sub-Z $50,000 freezer with your $20 million ice cream in there. You wouldn't say to yourself like, my gosh, how do we rebuild this? You'd be like, okay, even though it's Nancy Pelosi, this is a pretty nice house and a pretty nice freezer. Fair enough, Joe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why would we do a segment on rebuilding the GOP if we didn't first start as to why this thing is such a disaster and needs to be rebuilt? And I've never seen a better headline to sum it up better than this one at our left wing. I was going to say at our friends at Newsweek trying to be funny, but I'm afraid you'll misinterpret that as me actually meaning our friends at Newsweek. Here's a Newsweek article by Brendan Cole. Lisa Murkowski backs Liz Cheney's call for the GOP to move on. Quote, Donald Trump is gone. Joe, can you think of two greater scions of the essence of conservatism than the legendary Lisa Murkowski and Liz Cheney? Of course, sarcasm is dripping from my fangs on this show today. That's why I didn't want to say our friends at Newsweek at the beginning. Too much sarcasm is no good. Liz Cheney and Lisa Murkowski. I cannot think of two less popular human beings labeling themselves conservatives or Republicans than these two. And yet they're telling us, time to move on, folks. Donald Trump is gone. He's gone. He's actually not gone. I'm pretty sure that. I've seen video of him. He does still exist. He is still here, folks. So Donald Trump isn't gone. But why do we need to rebuild? Because the GOP swamp establishmentarians, again, have managed, Joe, for what, the 500th election cycle in a row, if there are that many in the history of the United States, to misread the public feelings and pulse of the actual GOP voters yet again, which is phenomenal. It's almost like you would think they would make a mistake, the Lisa Murkowskis and Liz Cheneys of the world, and once in a while, right, Joe? Just by mistake, once in a while, they'd get it right. Just by mistake. Yeah. Like they'd make an error and actually go, wow, right? I've actually got my finger on the pulse of what the GOP's thinking. And say out of the 100 dopey decisions they make, at least one of them be correct. Not with Lisa Murkowski and Liz Cheney. They're pretty much always wrong. So is Donald Trump really gone? Well, I saw this video, the one I was talking about in the kind of tease in the beginning. Joe saw this. He's like, Dan's definitely going to send us. And I did. We didn't coordinate it at all. Here's a video I saw. And this is Donald Trump returning from an outing to Mar-a-Lago yesterday in Florida. And first we heard he was gone. He's clearly not gone. He's actually in the truck. We saw him, unless it's some body double we don't know about. And I know most of the Secret Service agents on that detail, and they're real too. So unless they're protecting a body double, which would be against the law, Donald Trump is still here. But look at, you'll notice if Donald Trump is gone, like Lisa Murkowski and Liz Cheney said, why are so many people excited to see a guy who the swamp rats and the GOP tell us don't matter anymore and it's time to move on? Check out this video here, and I think you'll all beg to differ. Now, for those of you listening on audio, you're probably hearing in the background a rather loud crowd. We had to kind of dull the noise a little bit because even though that video was taken from inside a vehicle, clearly you can still hear the crowd. It's a substantial crowd, a crowd measuring in the hundreds, not the tens like a Joe Biden event. It's kind of weird, Joe. We're being told by all the swamp rats, Donald Trump is gone. It's time to move on. Well, clearly people who actually vote don't actually believe that. An interesting note here as well, for those of you unfamiliar with politics in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, where Donald Trump is currently residing in Florida. Palm Beach County, where Mar-a-Lago is located, is not a Republican county. It's largely run by Democrats. Not overwhelmingly. It's not like New York City, but it is definitely a Democrat county. There's no question about that. It's fascinating how every time he returns to Palm Beach County in Mar-a-Lago, that crowds of hundreds show up to greet him, despite the fact that he's not even in office anymore. Kind of weird, again, for a president who Liz Cheney and Lisa Murkowski are like, he's an irrelevancy. Apparently not irrelevant to actual voters. Kind of weird. And if I may, again, point of personal privilege, throw a little quick story in here for you folks. Some of you out there have a really smart audience. Are probably saying, I know I would. Well, Danny's a former president. He's still got big name ID. People love him. This is totally normal, right, Joe? Former presidents, Bill Clinton, everywhere they went, they drew huge crowds. Not exactly true, folks. Again, in my prior line of work, I've kind of done this a little bit. And I specifically remember when Bill Clinton left office, being up in Chappaqua, accepting the moving trucks. That was me and two other agents watching them cut the seals as he moved into Chappaqua from the White House. Of course, President George W. Bush had taken office at that point. And I remember the next day, former President Bill Clinton, only a former president for less than a week. I remember being up there in the weeks and months afterwards, and the Clinton team being consistently surprised how little attention he drew when he went out to get coffee in the morning in the delis. I was there. You're not going to tell me it didn't happen, because I remember it happening because I was there. And I remember him being like, hey, buddy, what the heck? We don't have to go through a big motorcade thing? And everybody was like, nah, dude, we don't do that anymore. You're a former president. He was so shocked there wasn't a 40-car motorcade to take him down to the deli. And I remember because we still have handheld magnetometers. So anyone's around, we generally, making sure no one's, going to attack the guy with a knife, God forbid, or something like that. But I remember, do we get 2 or 3 handheld mags? And we only needed one because there just weren't that many people around. We're a few looky-loos. Hey, buddy. He'd go around, hey, man, shaking some hands and stuff. But nobody really cared. Kind of weird that President Trump, who's supposedly gone, draws such magnificent crowds. And that hasn't happened before with other presidents. But he's got, remember, Liz Cheney, Joe, said he's got.